Okay, so what we're standing in front of is my son Ethan's 91 Dodge Stealth. And when I was growing up, I was 16 years old. These cars had kind of just came out, and I loved them. I thought they were great. I don't know how many Dodge dealerships I went to as a 16, 17-year-old kid test driving Dodge Stealths. We had one Mitsubishi dealership in Beaumont. You know, we drove to 3002, but the Stealth, that's what I really liked. And so we were at a coffee and cars one day, and Ethan saw this white Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4, and he really liked it. He's like, man, this is a really cool car. And I said, well, if you like that one, they have a twin brother called the Dodge Stealth. We need to check that one out.
You regretted that.
And I regretted it ever since. While this car looks stunning and it really drives very well, the problem is it doesn't drive all the time. We are on our fourth engine on this car. We bought it with a spun bearing. First engine we got from basically a used car dealership that couldn't sell a 3000 GT in New Orleans, Louisiana. So in typical form, me and Ethan jumps in the van, drives all the way over to New Orleans, and we saw them pull the engine out of the car. Engine ran. We said, yeah, it sounded good, let's took it. And so we hauled it back to Texas. Well, that engine only lasted a few months. After we got it in, I changed out the fuel injectors, and I'm not for sure if I dropped something down into the intake, because after that it started running really, really bad, and then it started making a very bad noise, and well, we got rid of it. So next engine came from a rebuilt engine from a wrecked car, and me and Ethan did a marathon 14-hour taking the engine out of this car, pulling the engine out of the other car, putting it back into this car, and then taking that engine and putting it back into the other engine, the other car. That was a very, very long day, but we got it all done. And it lasted for about 3 years. And then one day he was coming home, and we stopped off to eat at a restaurant, and I'm like, is that a knock? And he said, yeah, it was. He thinks it is. And so we listened to it, and we think it was a knock, but when we pulled the engine out, we noticed that the front motor mount wasn't attached to the engine. And so one bolt was completely gone. The other bolt had snapped. So there is a possibility that it was not knock, but the motor mount knocking against the block. But that engine was very, very badly put together that I'm not guaranteeing anything. The fourth engine in this car, which is the current one, we got used. It was a guy that was in the platform up in Dallas. He had it built. This engine has 11.5 to 1 compression ratio on this engine. The normal compression ratio on a naturally aspirated Mitsubishi 3000 or Dodge Stealth is 10 to 1. So we've got 1.5 more compression on this engine. We haven't dynoed it yet. We're still kind of leery because it is his everyday driver. On the Dodge Stealth, there was 2 generations. There was a first generation and a second generation. The first generation, one of the best things about this car is the pop-up headlights. To me, pop-up headlights are super cool, okay? I know they're not very aerodynamic when you're going down the track at night, but when they are down, it is a nice, sleek look, and it's far better than the glass projector headlights of the second gen. Another unique feature of the Dodge Stealth over its twin, the 3000 GT, is the banana wing, or as some people call it, the wing. It actually sits further closer to the front by the rear glass, where the 3000 GT spoiler was right on the back trunk lid, just like every other car out there with a spoiler. Also, the taillights are different. They're recessed. The only part of the taillight is this part right here, and this part right here is not even lit. This would be beautiful if it was lit, kind of like the Dodge Chargers nowadays with the racetrack taillights. That's probably one of the first modifications we're going to do to it when we actually get it up and running properly. We're driving the Stealth now and get a little information about this car. This car was produced for 6 years, from 1991 to 1996. It came in 2 different engine options. You had a 3.0 liter
single overhead cam,
6G72, and a double overhead cam, which was the ES models, the RTs, and the RT twin turbos. And it produced 220 horsepower, and it is not a very reliable engine.
It being unreliable is because one of the major design flaws was that the oil pickup tube is so close to the bottom of that oil pan. Anything happens to that oil pan, it's just gonna knock it just a bit to where it can't get oil, and then of course it starts one of the bearings, and then all of a sudden the engine goes knock knock.
Which we've heard a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's no parts out for them. There's not a big community for part dealers. If you had a Supra or a 300ZX or RX-7, you could probably get parts very easily. But with this platform here, since it was only around for a total of 9 years,
because if you 3000 went for 3 more years than this.
You just can't find a lot of them, and even the junkyards are starting to run low on them.
Yeah.
Another problem with this car is being a 91 and being OBD1. It's very hard to tune these cars. You've got to go by ear.
Yeah.
You get under a car, you make adjustments to the different sensors in there. You think it sounds good when it's idling. You get on the road and you go yes or no, and then you stop and do it all over again.
Even though this car is fuel injected, it's basically like working on a carburetor.
But one of the good points about this car is that since it was only produced for 6 years, you just do not see a lot of them out there. And so to me, it's one of those collector cars. Now, it will never be as rare, or I don't think it'll be as collectible as, say, a Supra,
and of course another Skyline, but those because they were never brought over here. So they're just now being imported.
But when we go to car shows, people love looking at this car because it looks so different than every other car out there. I mean, being a 28-year-old car design, it still holds up. It looks great. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
So being a 91, there was a lot of technology in this car. Everything from radio controls on the steering wheel to heated mirrors on the outside. There's a switch on the center console that allows you to adjust the bolsters of the seats, let you pull it in. Also electronic controlled suspension where you can go from touring to sport mode, and so you can take corners faster. And on the 3000 GT, you also had on the VR4, which was the twin turbo model. You have all-wheel drive, all-wheel steering, and you've got cars now like the Kia Stinger that are just coming out with that now.
Yeah.
And
you got them on like a lot of the higher end like performance cars and supercars, but on like an affordable performance car, that was not really seen. And the suspension, that's the same thing there. And the mirrors, there's still some cars nowadays that still don't have those.
Another good thing about this car is drivability. When it's up and running, it's driving, and it's tuned in right, it's really fun to drive. I find myself at times when I'm going to the store or I just want to cruise, getting in the car and just cruising and driving. It's something fun about shifting through the gears of a 5-speed that just takes some frustration out.
And it's also just going to that, shifting through gears. It's also a way to make it feel like it's fast. Like it's only got, like this one right now probably only has maybe 250 in the crank. And so it's not the fastest thing in the world, but it makes it feel like it is. It feels like it's pretty fast.
This car, even in the naturally aspirated front-wheel drive configuration that is the RT, the innate RT Stealth, could keep up with a Mustang or a Camaro or a lot of cars of that same year model. Another thing that hurt it was that it wasn't in any of the Fast and the Furious movies.
The only thing you can say that it was in Fast and the Furious material was like the first half of the Too Fast Too Furious prelude, which even then you can't really. You can kind of tell if you know what the car is, but if you don't know the car is, you have no idea what that car, what it is.
Right. So I mean, it, since it didn't get any screen time on the major film releases of Too Fast or Fast and the Furious franchise, it didn't have that pop culture, push.
Yeah.
So there's the intro of the 91 Dodge Stealth. Trust me, we'll have plenty more videos coming up on repairs and modifications and more repairs with this car. So if you like what you see, please like, share, subscribe, and let us know what you think. We'll have plenty more videos. Will you stop it?